Welcome to the Recruitment People podcast, the place where employers and candidates unite to uncover the art of successful recruitment. Hi, I'm Kelly Charity, a recruiter and agency owner with over 2 decades of recruitment experience. In this podcast series, I'm going to dive deep into the heart of hiring and job seeking, sharing actionable insights, expert advice, and of course, a little bit of fun along the way. Whether you're looking to sharpen your hiring practices or navigate your career path, we've got you covered. So let's get started and unlock the secrets to recruitment success together.
Hello and welcome back to the Recruitment People podcast. I'm Adam Bell, and today we're going to dive into strategies for enhancing employee retention because, look, we've been talking in this series. Kelly, welcome, I should say. I get ahead of myself sometimes. Kelly Charity, the owner of the Recruitment People, here with us. But we talk a lot about you finding the right person, which you do, and all the ins and outs around that. But once you've got them, you need to keep them, don't you?
Absolutely.
And there's ways and means and strategies about doing that. And look, that's what we're actually going to unpack here today. Once again, Kelly, this time I'm officially welcoming you to the podcast.
How are you, Adam?
I'm really well. Okay, so why, especially in today's age, is employee retention, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it means keeping your staff, so critical for businesses today?
Look, it's about cost. The cost of turnover and retention of staff is just huge. If you can't keep your staff and you have to hire over and over again, that cost is probably not taken into account enough by companies. They just lose someone, they just rehire, but that cost of the turnover is out of control. Let's
talk about that for a minute, because let's not just think about it being the cost of a recruitment fee or something like that. That's not actually what you're talking about here, is it? Talk me through it. It's the lost productivity. It's the time spent by other staff, either dealing with the recruitment, training, looking themselves.
Training the person, bringing them on board, the time you took in terms of your time taken to recruit that person, the time invested in training that person, the time taken out of your team to invest in that person, the time spent in the business setting that person up on the system, setting them up on payroll, setting them up through all of the things that need to be done for an onboard, and then they leave within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, wherever it might look like.
Even 6 months, 12.
6 months. You know, you've got to go through the whole thing all over again. That cost is really
it's huge, isn't it?
As a business.
It isn't, because it's not something you actually go and put a number to, is it? It's hours spent by so many people doing so much. The lost productivity of that staff member was putting out to the time you've got to get someone up to that level again.
Absolutely.
If you put a number on that and add it all up, it would scare employers, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So keeping people long term is a cost saver that probably a lot of people have never even thought about. Let's now talk through what are some of the key strategies that companies can implement to improve their employee retention.
Okay, so firstly, there's onboarding. So you need to think about how you're bringing people into your organization. Is the onboarding process smooth, and do they understand the expectations of them and what the culture and the values are of the organization, so that when they're on board, they're engaged, they know what's expected of them, they feel part of the team because perhaps they've been buddied up with somebody, and they know exactly what impact their job is going to have on the biggest strategy, which I suppose comes then into communication.
Yep.
If you've got somebody that's been brought into an organization, working for the managers, like, oh, welcome, here's your job, off you go.
Well, that's it. I mean, I spoke to someone recently and they were talking to me about a time they got a job many years ago now, turned up and the first thing was, oh, I didn't know you were starting today.
Not an ideal start, is it?
Terrible. I mean, that's not going to make you and you only get one chance to make a first impression, don't you? So onboarding.
No email, no computer, no desk, no.
So you need a process, don't you?
The process needs to be, slick. And you need people to help with the onboarding so that people know, the basics. How do you order stationery? How do you do your job? How do you do your job efficiently? And what is the expectation of your job? Because even though you've got a job description, you can't just walk into the job and start doing your job and not understand how that fits into the bigger strategy. So the communication from the top down is important so that people go, oh, I'm making a difference here. My job is making a difference because the company is going to hear X, Y, and Z in the future. And so they're engaged from the word go. The team are all friendly with them. Maybe they've taken them out for lunch. So they're starting to make, real sort of friendships within that team. So they feel part of the team, not the newbie, a little bit scared, rabbit in the headlights or deer in the headlights, wherever the phrase is. And they feel part of the team. That onboarding is smooth. They feel supported, etc. And then it's about, the delivering what has been sold to them perhaps in the interview. So, if the candidate goes in there and they start the job and they've been promised that they're going to become team leader in 2 years, and then there's talk in the team about, Josephine, who's going to be the team leader.
Unrest.
Well, now the career development opportunities that were there, the candidate or the new employee is going to be thinking, I thought I was being geared up to be the team leader. So it's just this alignment of expectation, aligning with what is actually going to go on in the company when they get into the chair.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And having that process and even things like a checklist to go through, that makes somebody feel as though, hang on, I'm valued. There is a process here. It gives them confidence in the company, their systems. No one wants to walk into a dog's breakfast, do they?
No.
So, I've even had a scenario, and I'll probably just tell this story quickly about where I've known a couple of employers who maybe have gone even a little above and beyond, which again takes it to the next level where someone feels, wow, I've really made the right choice. So I once knew an employer who would never start a new employee on a Monday, but would pay them for half a day on that Monday and say, you start at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, not your normal 8 a.m. It's 10 a.m. because we want to be ready and have our morning stuff done. You turn up and you're going to leave at 3 and we're going to pay you for that full day.
Yeah.
So,
ease you in.
So automatically they already felt, now it didn't cost them a lot for an extra half, they're probably doing a full extra day's pay in all of that.
Yeah.
But for what that did to the candidate coming on board. And another little thing I'd heard of too was, especially in a big office, they had a mud map of where everybody sat with their names.
That's
we've all done that first day, haven't we, where here's John, here's Sue, here's Mary, here's Alex. You don't remember any of them.
No. It's about the employee experience. So, smaller organizations, they don't have a HR person. So they're running with this as not really knowing what to do. We work in partnership with the HR consultants to make sure our clients are given a good onboarding experience and that there is an experience so that the new employee is embedded into the organization. Yep. But we just had a candidate offered a role and I rang her to say, I'm really pleased about your offer, well done. Yep. And she said, I'm so happy. And she said, I've handed in my notice. And I said, is there any going back? Because her company was really disappointed that she was handing in her notice. And she said, absolutely not. And I said, why? And she said, because the interviewer or her new employer that had offered her the job said to me, what is it that you need for you to be happy in this role?
Wow.
And her answer was, I need a 9-day fortnight. And the employer said, okay, that wasn't on the table. I didn't go to the market offering a 9-day fortnight. But the client, the employer, wanted this employee and said, what do I need to do to make you happy in this job?
And that probably made the world, it has made the world of difference.
It has made the world of difference. Just that small thing. Not all companies can offer that. No. It's not, some companies need full-time workers. That's fine. But imagine how much higher her productivity is going to be. She's probably still going to deliver the same amount of work in that time period because she's engaged, she's happy, she wants to keep her job because she's going to love it. Yep. Just those small things can make such a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, look, we've talked a lot about in previous episodes around, you finding a cultural fit and how important that is when you are searching for candidates for your clients. So how important is company culture in then retaining somebody once they're in?
That's just super, super important. One of the key things. So if somebody has a terrible onboarding experience, but the company culture is fantastic and they love everybody there, they're probably going to stay anyway.
Yeah.
But so the company culture is key. So if you don't have a company culture, you've probably got problems on your hands. You can find out your company culture by running an employment engagement survey. and finding out real honest feedback from your employees, I would suggest that you need a discreet and confidential employee feedback.
I was going to say it's
program.
probably, where you don't, so you can give honest feedback
Absolutely.
without the worry of
Anonymous,
any repercussions.
Yeah, which is why outsourcing it rather than using perhaps your own, is it Monkey Survey, Chimp Survey? I don't know what it is, any of those surveys.
Yep.
And you can do that internally, but then people aren't going to give honest feedback. They need to think it's anonymous. It has to be anonymous for them to be honest. And then the company culture is actually not great. People are disengaged, and that affects productivity and performance. And if your team have a bad apple in there, the culture is not going to be good. And once your new employee joins that culture and sees, actually, the boss is this and the boss is that, and that culture is just not conducive to a productive environment. So culture is just so important. But you have to work on culture. Whether you have a HR manager creating that or not and guiding that, as a small organization, the culture is created from the top.
Yep.
It's down to the management team to really work on creating that culture and getting people on board. And I think the old saying of, if you're not on board the ship, get off the ship.
Get off the ship.
Yeah, you don't need those people on your ship creating that bad culture,
Sure.
It's important.
We all know I think we all know that what are we up to? Gen Z, who are now entering the workforce, and in there, they've got a very different way of looking at employment than I guess the older generations do. And I think it's changed down the line of generations, that it's sort of normal for them to change. Well, let's not say normal. It's what's happening. They tend to move jobs very quickly.
Yes.
So again, that must be a very important thing to bear in mind. That's the way the world's going, and making employee retention even more important.
Yes. And I think that comes down to the hire. So if you've hired the wrong person that is, wanting to have flexible hours and work until 2 and then finish and clock off and go home and do whatever for a work-life balance that suits their life, then you've made the wrong choice at the beginning. So the recruitment process, it does come back to the recruitment process, because if you bring someone into your organization that isn't the right culture fit for the organization, that, it does come back to the beginning of the process. But once you've brought somebody on board, they should be the right culture fit if you've gone through the recruitment process thoroughly enough to make sure they fit the organization. So if you're an organization that, everyone likes to go out on a Friday and have team drinks, and then you bring on somebody that perhaps isn't very sociable, doesn't like going out with a team, that can potentially create a divide in the team. And it comes down to culture fit. It's not the right culture.
Yep.
Or if you're a really loud workforce, like a contact center, for example, and, when somebody has a win on the phone, they ring the bell and it's really loud. And then you have this person that's very quiet and calm and wants to work in a very quiet and calm environment.
That's not going
to
to work.
Put them in there, it's not going to work.
No.
So you need to almost explain your company culture in the recruitment process as well, because otherwise the match isn't there. I suppose we're going back to recruitment rather than the culture, but the culture is important to the candidate or the new employee, because if it's not the right match for them, they're going to leave. So you have to talk about that in the recruitment process, or you're going to have high turnover and low retention rates because you're not finding the right people to match your company culture.
Absolutely. And I think we were talking about this before we started the podcast here today, that it's very important how you sell your culture and your workplace to potential new employees during the interview process. That needs to actually match what it actually is. I mean, candidates come into interviews and they have to, tell the truth about what they can offer. And it's just as important for employees. I was actually talking to a friend yesterday who's been in a new job, recruitment, but believe it or not, and was sold the idea that after 2 to 3 months, she would be able to work from home. Hasn't happened. She's now not a happy camper.
Right. This is the whole problem about the onboarding, and I suppose what you've promised them in the interview is going to come to fruition when they're in the role. So if HR and middle management have hired somebody and said, you can work from home, and then they get into the role and the manager that they report to says, oh no, that's not going to work for us, and you're not delivering on what you've said, you're going to have high turnover. You have to be honest about what the job and the expectations are, so that when the new employee is on board, it is as you've said it's going to be, because they're going to leave. They're going to be unhappy in their role. And I think managers need to be trained on how to identify disengagement in the workplace, so that they can help their teams when, there are issues, or that they're recognizing as the manager that something's going on with Joe over there. I don't know why we're talking about Joe and Josephine. I've got a theme here, clearly. There's an issue with that person. But, the manager's role becomes this whole counselor type role, which I suppose leads on to creating a workplace where you are supportive in the workplace, because people have financial pressures, maybe have a physical issue, or maybe even under, just stress in general, mental well-being. And so if you see a change in your new employee or a current employee, you need to be aware of that. And I think you need to show support. I mean, a lot of companies offer EAP programs where you've got employee well-being that you're offering, so they can have, like 3 sessions of calling somebody like a counsellor, and so it's not in the workplace.
Well, they were the 3 things I wanted to finish off on that I think, probably would tick a box for one or all of them for most people in an organisation. That would be career development opportunities, like you just said, wellness programs and employee assistant programs, and performance-based incentives. Absolutely. I think if you've got a mixture of all of those, you're going to be generally ticking a box with most employees, aren't you?
And you're sort of showing that you care about the employee and every aspect of their life. Because if somebody's wants career development and you're not giving it to them, they're going to leave your organization. If somebody is stressed out at home, financially under pressure, and you're not addressing that at work or recognizing that at work, they're going to bring it into work regardless. It's difficult for people not to. If you can offer some kind of assistance for those people, you're going to increase productivity and performance. Because if they're coming into work unhappy, physically or mentally stressed, all of those things, productivity and performance is going to go down. It's going to impact your bottom line regardless. So it's better to have these things in place so that you can support employees, and employees feel loved. Then they feel like you care. You actually genuinely care about them. And if you care about them, they care about you. So,
and look, that probably brings me to the very last point I wanted to make here. I think it's a thing employers often overlook, not deliberately, but that is just recognition. Not with money, not with incentives, not with anything else, just telling someone they've done a good job. There are so many people out there, that's their thing.
Communication.
That's their work love language. Let's call it that.
Yes.
Look, you did such a great job with that project. I mean, it's instilled with us at kids, little Josephine,
whichever.
They love
sister.
being told by mum and dad how well they played at the game on the weekend, or that Lego thing they built. We're taught us, so
Correct.
Just recognise your employees. A kind word or recognition for work they've done will go such a long way.
I think if you take care of your people, will take care of your clients.
I love that.
And your customers.
I love that.
That's what it comes down to.
Fantastic. Well, look, Kelly, once again, another really, really valuable episode that we've done here on how to keep your employees happy and keep them in your organisation, which ultimately saves and makes you money. So I know our listeners would have found these strategies very helpful, but there's heaps more information on your website, www.therecruitmentpeople.com.au. Heaps more episodes where you can get heaps more information on this and so much more. Stay in touch, hit that subscribe button. Don't miss our next episode for more expert advice from Kelly from the Recruitment People. Thanks once again.
Thanks, Adam.